Hi, I'm Jasmine O'Connor.
And I'm Grace Kaler.
Thank you for listening to the Youth Climate Justice Forum podcast. We're a youth-led group of climate activists working to collectively create change by empowering and inspiring our peers and our community. In this podcast, we're trying to find ways for all of us to continue to work for climate justice during and after the coronavirus crisis.
We've seen a brief restoration of the natural world during this pandemic, as much human industrial activity has ceased. But is there a way we can make this short-term progress last after the pandemic is over? How can we make sure that climate activism is strengthened and not undermined by the current uncertain times? Join us as we interview various talented local leaders and learn what we all can do to help. This week, we're interviewing Scott Tess, a Sustainability and Resilience Officer at City of Urbana, Illinois.
From Scott Tess, we learn about what it's like to be a part of the Sustainability Advisory Commission and what the Sustainable Water Management Plan is. We also learn about what the average citizen and the youth can do to change climate change in its path. How are you today, Scott Tess?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to be doing a podcast all about the coronavirus as well as climate change, and we'll be asking you a couple questions. Do you feel ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, awesome. My first question is, can you tell us a brief overview of what you do and what your job entails?
Sure. So my title is Sustainability and Resilience Officer for the City of Urbana. So I have a broad set of responsibilities, anything that touches on energy, water, waste, recycling. I'm also doing some work in terms of furthering our city's preparedness for continuity in terms of hazard response. So things that we're doing right now in response to COVID-19. And I'm also supporting the Landscape Recycling Center and managing our closed landfill. But I spend a lot of time in my day-to-day just working on energy efficiency and renewable energy work, both internal and for the community.
Awesome, thank you. Your work does not go unnoticed.
Thanks.
What compelled you to become involved in the field of environmental science?
So I've always had an interest in the natural sciences, but one of the really nice things about being in this field is you're working on issues that really affect everybody, that benefit everyone. That doesn't mean that everyone suffers environmental harms equally. We know that from the work of folks who have developed the environmental justice movement, but at the same time, everyone does enjoy clean air and clean water, and access to renewable energy, and so it's a way to really have a broad reach, and of course now my field is doing better, not perfect, not great, but better at working to get access to these environmental goods to a broader array of our communities. So you see that in the Future Energy Jobs Act, which really focuses on carving out ways for lots of different communities, low-income communities, historically disenfranchised communities, to have access to environmental goods like energy efficiency and renewable energy.
You've also mentioned in the past how climate change isn't only affecting our environment, but it's also affecting those with health conditions such as asthma and even for the elderly.
Yes. So, this gets to the issue that not everyone suffers environmental harms equally. Not everyone enjoys environmental goods equally. And so you've pointed out a couple of examples. Youth are particularly vulnerable to pollution, bad air quality, because of developing lungs. And so there's sort of a miraculous lifting of the haze in major cities like LA and others. And so this is a new environmental good, not intentional, but came out of the stay-at-home orders. And we have to really contemplate seriously how to lock that in once we all return to work.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. One of my questions that I had was, a lot of people have been highlighting the positives as well as the negatives of the coronavirus and what's occurring right now, as well as the fact that emissions are going down. But do you think that overall, with the number of deaths as well as the bounce back of the economy as well as the climate, do you think that it's a net positive or a net negative outcome, this coronavirus?
Well, I think, a lot of people are suffering, and we should be very sensitive to that and consider that seriously in our public policy responses. So obviously people are suffering from a disease, and we should support healthcare systems that provide the best healthcare possible for folks to hopefully achieve recovery. Also, in order to stop the spread, a lot of people are suffering isolation, and they're suffering job loss and everything that job loss entails. And so those are very serious things. Now, the unintended positives in terms of clean air are things to seriously contemplate in terms of how do we lock that in? What are the behaviors that can continue when we reopen the economy fully? And some of that is transportation systems, but some of it is also lifestyle choices. And I hope that folks who are suffering a slowdown in their life rather than a painful stop in their life with the stay-at-home order will continue things like quality of life things like walking and biking to their destinations, driving less, and focusing on growing their own food and all those sort of lifestyle things that are probably having a positive effect on the environment whilst we are suffering some of these stay-at-home burdens.
Yep, I know I've definitely gone on way more walks than I have ever before.
Yeah, and I'm happy about it. Like, I've been able to get outside and have some fresh air every now and then, so it's nice.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned in the past as well that you're a part of this Sustainability Advisory Commission. Could you talk about that as well?
Sure. So the city has a Sustainability Advisory Commission. Its members are appointed by the mayor, and their charge is to provide advice and consent on all the sustainability related work that the city may engage in. So we typically have a monthly meeting. It's the first Tuesday of every month, 7 p.m. Of course, it's all digital now during the stay-at-home order. But we have a monthly meeting, and I report on work that we're doing. And sometimes the members will bring forward issues, topics, ideas, concerns in terms of potential sustainability work. And we often have guest speakers talk about specific sustainability topics.
Awesome. And what are some of the top priorities of the Sustainability Advisory Commission?
So they're charged in terms, there's an ordinance that created the commission many years ago, and that ordinance specifically charged them to address energy and water. And so we've done a lot of that work with a climate action plan and a water management plan. Both of those are terming out this year, and made a lot of progress in both of those domains. We've substantially reduced greenhouse gases from the citywide, as well as city facilities. And we've also dramatically lowered the water consumption from city facilities, whilst community water consumption has also declined. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but we have fairly astoundingly low water consumption per capita compared to the national average here in Urbana. So that's really positive. Now, I mentioned that the plans are terming out, but the city is going to be starting a public engagement process soon to create a comprehensive city plan. And so all the environmental topics that the commission and staff might address otherwise will be rolled into this planning process. And that will be our guiding document moving forward.
Has the coronavirus changed any of these priorities or your means of attaining them?
Well, it certainly changed our means of attaining them in the sense that, everything is slightly more difficult. We can't necessarily meet face to face. We all have to learn to navigate Zoom and others. Have to get new technology to enable work at home. These are for us, these are fairly minor impositions. But probably more substantial than that is simply the staff focus towards managing the incident, the incident being the pandemic and the stay-at-home order. So that has really drawn a lot of time and attention away from developing plans and programs. But our work still continues. I just got off a call developing our fifth year of our solar UC, our bulk solar purchase program. So we're continuing that. We have a bulk, a rain barrel, and compost bin sale, which is all online, all digital with delivery. That is open for sale now. So we're still continuing that. We just had to make some adjustments.
That sounds awesome.
So while you were talking about, I guess, the solar panels and such, another question popped in my head. Are you involved with the U of I and how they're supporting sustainability in Champaign-Urbana?
Yes, I'm on one of their technical advisory teams developing the new climate action plan for campus. So the team I'm on is developing a campus and community. So it's a little bit different focus than the rest of the teams, a campus and community resilience approach. So this is focusing on not just the conventional efficiency, water conservation, and so forth, but also how do we make the community more resilient to all kinds of shocks and stressors? So in terms of energy, water, waste, everything. So it's a really interesting angle, and really enjoy working with them.
What kinds of things do you think the average citizen can do to change, to help with climate change during this pandemic?
Well, I like to think in terms of nesting or scales. So folks have influence over their immediate home, and then they have influence over their neighborhood, their friends and family, and then they have influence over their city. They have influence over the county, their state, federal, and so there's a lot of opportunities. And I don't think there's any right answer about what should a person be doing or what is the best thing to do. Instead, I encourage people to consider what moves them. Are they most interested or most moved by, global warming, pollution, and renewable energy? Then do something with that at your home, in your city. Are they most moved by, growing local food and native plants and supporting pollinators and monarchs? That's great too. Focus on that. But really focus on something that moves you, because you're going to stick with that rather than trying to do what someone tells you is the right thing to do.
Yeah, it's really important to find that there are so many things that we can be doing to helping.
Well, I think that right now is just the perfect time to form those healthy habits while we can focus on them.
Absolutely. We've had normal disrupted, and that is causing discomfort for some and really pain for others. But it is an opportunity for folks who are just being discomforted to develop new practices and new habits and new behaviors and new lifestyles and new preoccupations. And planting milkweed for monarchs and coneflower for bees and pollinators, and vegetables for yourself, and solar panels for your house, and asking your city, whether it's Urbana or another city, to do the same. This is a good time for all of that.
Yep, it's important to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes.
So, as you may already know, we're part of this group of climate youth sustainability efforts. And so one of the most important things for us especially is like, what can young people without the ability to vote have a voice in their community, or how can they have a voice in our community?
Well, young people have a voice, and it's not can they have a voice, but they do have a voice. And so young people can do a lot of things. They have a home that they can influence. They have a workplace of sorts. They have a school. That's their workplace that they can influence. Now, they're not physically in school right now, but they will be very soon. That's another space that, has electricity and gas and grounds, all of which can be curbed towards more sustainable practices. And while students or youth don't vote, they will be voting very soon. And I would strongly advise against the notion that youth are politically powerless. I don't think that's true. Youth can engage in every other type of political activity besides voting and be just as powerful as others.
Yeah.
Awesome. We would really like to thank you for all of the time that you spent here with us today. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us and reminding us that we do have a voice, and there's so much that we can do to change our environment and change the things that we see going on around us. And if you have any last words or wisdom for people to take away from this podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you so much for being engaged with these issues. Like I said, there's no right answer. There's only all of the answers. And so you're providing some of them by doing these kind of communications, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Thank you for listening to the Youth Climate Justice Forum podcast. Tune in next week to hear from Carol Ammons.